good evening. If we haven't met before, it's nice to meet you. If we have met, it's nice to see you again. This is a little bit of a different episode of Office Hours. It's the second part of a two-part series, a whiteboard series that I originally produced on my website when I was doing content there, and as part of the blueprint one-page financial template that I'm putting together for people that I'll link down in the description. With that being said, I want to get into this video, which is how to create a budget in 15 minutes using nothing but your phone and a notepad. As always, I believe investing changes lives, and my only goal with any of this is to get people investing and to foster participation in the public markets for everyday Americans, which is all of us. Before we jump into it, let's get our Barron's Finance and Investment Handbook for the term of the day. Restricted. Said of a stock brokered by a firm that is actively involved with the issuing company in non-public investment banking activities representing potential conflict of interest, such as a merger acquisition defense or an underwriting. A firm can handle transactions in restricted stock only as an agent performing a brokerage function. It cannot trade for its own account, give indications, or solicit orders with reference to restricted stock. List of restricted stock cannot be disclosed outside the trading area of the firm. All right. I'm Jerry McFarland. Welcome to Office Hours.
Today we're going to talk about creating a budget in 10 minutes using a phone and a notepad. We're also going to talk about how budgeting is an integral part to your financial plan, using budgeting for financial health, and how you can use it to become a better investor. You might be wondering why budget at all, and that's a fair question. Automatic activity to ensure your performance. Budgeting the same way an athlete trains for a race, or maybe a business owner looks over their books to make sure that everything is in line and people are getting paid and sales are growing. Budgeting is going to keep your financial situation accountable. It's also going to reduce financial stress and make financial decisions easier on you and your family. Furthermore, it's going to lead to a consistent, predictable, and healthy relationship with your money, which is really what we want. We're not asking you to become any budgeting wizard or anything like that. We just want you to become affluent in the skill so you can focus your time, effort, and energy elsewhere on what matters most to you. But wait, you might have a question. What about all the budgeting apps? Things that do it automatically. You just link your bank account and it transfers over all of your transactions. There's a whole bunch of these things like Truebill, Mint from Intuit, Personal Capital, Simplified by Quicken, You Need a Budget, Pocket Card. The list goes on and on and on. The problem with these, although they are a great tool, is they transfer accountability from you to the computer. And they can often miscategorize and mess you up an easy process, especially if you haven't done it yourself to know what's going on. And we know that writing by hand leads to stronger neural encoding and memory recall. So you're going to, by writing it down at least once, be able to remember and kind of understand your financial situation a lot better than you would by just plugging it into a phone. A couple things you'll need: bank and credit card statements for the past month. Most of these you can just find on your phone in the bank and credit card apps. So you're going to bring those up. And you'll also need a trusty notepad, pen, and as we said, your smartphone to look over that stuff. Now that you have all that ready, let's get started. The first part of this is going to be looking through your statements, those credit and debit card statements that we talked about earlier, and then splitting them up into kind of three categories. The budget will have two sides or two lines, a top line and a bottom line. The top line details all the money that you make, known as your gross income prior to any expenses. This is money that you take in on a monthly basis, direct deposits, Social Security, investment dividends, maybe help with rent payments, things like that. And this is going to be your income section. It's going to carry a positive value, and it's going to go at the very top. On the very bottom, we have all the money you keep, known as net income, after all your expenses. This money is discretionary. It means that you can do whatever you want with it. You can save it, you can invest it, or you can spend it. This net category is going to carry the equal sign. It's going to be the very last step. And then between these two lines is where we'll do most of the work associated with the budgeting. This is the expenses area, and it's going to detail every single thing you spend money on monthly. Maybe a mortgage or rent payment, groceries, medical, doctor bills, school supplies, higher education costs, bills for things like utilities and internet, loans for your house or your business, car insurance, and then all the costs associated with technology, subscription, Apple data plan, all that stuff. These will go in the expenses category and carry the negative sign. Now that we're ready to understand that, let's give it a shot. We're going to create here, just draw up real quick, a kind of simple, sample budget. We've got those 3 sections, those 2 lines, and you can be doing that on your own, on your pad. We're going to have the income, the expenses, and then at the very bottom, as I'm sure you've guessed, the net. Now, what's important here is we need some transactions to pull and to categorize. So I've come up with a list, populated a list of sample transactions for someone over the month of April. We're going to go through them and we're going to categorize them into each bucket, and then we're going to look at some ratios with them. So starting off with the income section, the first big one you should see is an external deposit. This is a direct deposit from ADP, which is a payroll processor, likely the first of 2 monthly income payments. We have a transfer from Venmo, maybe from a side gig that recurs each month. If you look forward, we have another one of those on the 14th for $200. And then on the 15th, we have the second income payment of the month from ADP. And it's a little more than the first, maybe some overtime. Looking at those 4 income numbers, we come up with a total income of $8,086.29. We got to remember that number. Now we're going to go through and do the expenses, and I want to break them down into categories so that later we can look at some ratios and see exactly where the money goes within each category. This first one is going to be a rent payment. Second one is going to be energy. The OPS online payment system, 419 MetLife, it's going to be house or renter's insurance. Then we have Home Depot, maybe something broke and you had to fix it. Next we got that medical category, looking through Overlake Medical Center, and then it looks like a little further up we have a CVS purchase, maybe some medicine, and then after that we have the groceries or the food category. It looks like there are 2 transactions here from a QFC, one earlier in the month and one later in the month with a larger value. And then after this, we're going to do a dining category for money that's spent dining out. Apple Pay. A lot of places take that. It'll show up that way on the statement. Then we have a Starbucks. And then lastly, we have a negative Venmo transfer, assuming we went out to eat with some people, somebody else took the bill, and we Venmoed for it. The next one is going to be transport. There's going to be 4 on here that are gas. This Safeway fuel station, this Chevron right here, Diamond parking. Let's say a metered parking. Another gas, and then an auto loan or an auto insurance payment, or both. And then on the 5th, we have what looks like a flight. Let's assume we have to travel for work, and this is a recurring expense. I like to break down technology and subscriptions into its own category. We got the Comcast cable, that's the internet. Then we have the Verizon, the phone bill. We have Spotify, the Spotify premium subscription, and then the Netflix subscription. And then there are just a few other ones on here that we, haven't categorized that don't fall neatly into this. One's gym membership, LA Fitness. The other one looks like a UPS, a postage, something we have to send each month. Notice that there are 4 that haven't been marked. We're going to get into that. But our total expenses number is going to come out to $5,907.86. So remember that number as well. Last, to calculate our net, we got to take one more step, and that's the discretionary spending. Money that we spend on things like new clothes, gifts, items we want but don't necessarily need. Amazon, something was ordered on Amazon. Then we have a transaction on Walmart.com that was facilitated through PayPal. A lot of the statements are gonna show these kind of hybrid transaction names. Klarna is one of those pay over time items, so we made an installment payment there, and then finally we have another payment for Etsy through PayPal. And so adding up all of those numbers, we also get a number for our discretionary spending, which is $538. And now we're ready to actually calculate that net income. And so we'll take our total income, that $8,086.29, our total expenses, $5,907.86, and the $500.38 in discretionary spending. We will subtract the spending and the expenses from our total income to come up with a net income number of $1,678.05. Now, I just want us to remember these numbers because on our next slide here, we're going to go through and look at some ratios to see exactly where our money is going. So keep those in your head, and if you have them for yourself, write those down again. So now that we've done this categorizing, we're ready to create some ratios that can tell us a little bit more. We have all the numbers needed now, and it was those 4 numbers we discussed. We're going to bring those over: net income, total expenses, discretionary spending, and total income. And the first most important one is our savings rate. It's out of all of our money that comes in, how much are we actually saving or investing? So we take our total net income and divide by our gross income, and we're going to get roughly 21%. And then we can also look at our total spending rate, which is going to be the inverse of this, to see how much of our total income we're spending. And as we see, that lines up about 79%. And then if we want to break it down even further to see what our discretionary spending is, money that we're spending that we don't necessarily have to be, we divide that 500 by the total income, which is 6.19%. And then we can also break it down, if we want, into spending rate by category. So if we calculate the total amount that we spend on housing and divide it by our total income, we see that out of all of our income, 44% goes to housing. We can do it also for transport, and see that 16% goes to transport. And I won't do all of these calculations, but as you can see, it's going to populate with each one, and we can see percentage-wise where exactly our money is going. And then we'll do a quick math check that you can run through to make sure that this all looks right. So yeah, we can check our math here just to make sure. Because we calculated spending ratios in proportion to total income. So that savings rate, the 21%, we are going to add to our discretionary spending rate, which is going to be the 6.19, and the total of our spending by category, because the categories didn't include the discretionary spending, and that's going to bring us to 100%. So we know that adds up. We can also do these calculations in proportion to total expenses, not in proportion to total income. So calculating housing spending right here, which we already calculated. And now we use for the denominator our total spending number. So we can see how much of our total spending goes to housing. We can choose to either include or not include the discretionary spending. I chose to include it. So out of all of our spending, roughly 56% goes to housing. You might be wondering now how knowing any of this will make you a better investor. So I want to break that down on our next slide, okay? Now, the investing impact of budgeting is big because good budgeters are good investors. They go hand in hand, right? You cannot be a good investor without good budgeting skills, period. If you don't know how much you are saving each month, you won't know how much you can invest, because you should never invest money that you can't afford to lose. So it's a balancing act there between over and under investing. And if you don't know, you will either over or under invest. And if you over invest, you will eventually need that money and have to sell into losing markets to raise capital, and then may lose funds. If you underinvest later in your life for things like retirement, or if you have a goal on the horizon, you're going to have to take on more risk due to your shortened goal horizons. You're going to be chasing, a bigger number. It'll also teach you skills that can be identically used to evaluate businesses. The same kind of accounting breakdown is in a sense what businesses do. So if you look into stocks, you'll be able to evaluate them that way. And just like a portfolio, a budget need only be set up once, then modified as necessary. And finally, the investment process must be a part of your whole financial process for it to work. And the whole financial process, one of the cogs in there is budgeting. So now that we kind of understand how this can help us be a better investor, that is all I have for you, and that's creating a budget in 10 minutes using a phone and a notepad.